Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. The first semi-final of the main Over Cup begins now. We have Bonny and Aviator versus Drachir and FC Lucy. Game number one, let's get it on.
Yeah, and so we do have only cash out from Bonny. Everybody else is greed. And we can't call that matchup the Norwegian war now because there's Lucy and Aviator, both Norwegians.
I wonder how far off Lucy is from being the rank 1 Norwegian player.
That's a good question. I can look at it while you describe what's happening.
Okay, so we have cash out on Bonny as the only standout play. All the other players are picking greed, so fairly vanilla stuff there. Bonny doesn't have one of the kind of standout cash out openers, so he doesn't have Bone Crusher or Flower, but he's definitely got some good aggressive options. He has the Necker Martyr, he has Infiltrator, so those two units can pretty much carry you for the first 7 or 8 waves by themselves. If we look at the spells, there's Pulverizer available, there is Battle Scars and Hero. So only 3 defensive / buff spells. There's no eco spell, there's no aggressive spell. So kind of an interesting set of abilities there. We either expect to see the game ending before wave 10, or else it's more likely to go into the very late game, kind of wave 15 plus, just because there isn't that mid-game power spike to try and end the game on 11, 12, 13. So kind of interesting to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, and so there is the openers that are quite interesting. We have Lucy with the most preferred opener here, the Gatling gun, a real terror when Lucy has this Gatling gun, but also Aviator with the Windhawk start and did not send on wave 1, allowing him to get the 40.
I mean, he's got the 40, but I mean, Lucy's just going to be totally fine, right? All she needs to do is add a single tier 1, which she does, and I don't see her leaking to 2 snails here, so this is just kind of a little bit of food, maybe, for Lucy's machine.
I mean, a little bit of food. However, Aviator does get that in income, so that's 12 income for him. And if it was something that was vulnerable to a 40 cent, it would have been very good. So yes, it feeds the 12 gold to Lucy. However, it does give 12 income to Aviator. Also.
And Drachir, by the way, we haven't spoken about his opener yet, but Drachir with the False Maiden Gargoyle opener, going 6 workers already on wave 2 just from the King upgrade that he received on wave 1. So really pushing that aggression, a nice solid early game roll. Doesn't really have any weaknesses before wave 5. So let's see how that one pans out.
He needs to be careful though on wave 4. If you receive a dino, however, we see Bonny sending on wave 3, meaning that he will be fine on wave 4. And with the Second Maiden, it announces that he wants to shift on wave 4 for something on wave 5 as an answer.
What do we think about Bonny's build here? He's going for the Tone Fist in the split, which obviously we know that he doesn't need because he's only receiving a 20. But I suppose that's what he's going to end up building on wave 5 anyway, right? So it's
but I mean,
irrelevant.
this is 20 gold that prevents you from pushing the worker a little bit earlier. And with the Chain Fist and the Nightmare, normally you're fine with a 60 cent. And since you receive a 20,
let me stop you for a second, Shadow, because it looks like Aviator's in trouble. The 60 cent, too much for him to handle. 44% leak there against income from Drachir. So that's 6 worker push on wave 2, paying off already for Drachir here.
Yeah, and that's because Aviator did not expect the 60. I mean, the 6 worker aggression is not something you predict easily on wave 1.
Alright, now we see Bonny leading the pack with 7 workers, so that cash out, slightly higher cash injection at the start of the game is paying off for him so far. Let's see if Lucy can punish that on wave 5 though. She should have around 100 Mythium to send, but I'm not quite sure if she's going to reach the magic imps before income.
And that's going to be a Fire Lord for Drachir on wave 5, it looks like, with a 132 gold shift here.
Yeah, that's a crazy shift, honestly. So the fact that the masks are so strong on wave 4 just enables him to do... Like, you can never shift 130 gold on wave 4, right? Like, it's just too much to shift. But because he has those masks, which are perfectly suited for wave 4, he can get away with it and he can drop down that Fire Lord on wave 5, which is probably his only chance of holding 5. So lovely play there from Drachir.
Yeah, and Lucy just giving a little bit more gold to Drachir to get that Fire Lord.
There it is. The one problem I see with Firelord here is that it's not split tanking at all. So maybe
Yeah,
the
it
wave
is
is going to
full
be able
tanking
to
right
overpower.
now. Is it full tanking though? It might be this gargoyle that saves the day
The
here.
Gargoyle might
To be
pull a
really
little
swift.
bit, yeah. But let's see.
So the
Because
idea
if
from
that...
Drachir,
Go ahead.
right now is to get that gargoyle up, have the wave go on the mask, and then on the maiden behind. But it's too close. It's
The
just too
Hermit is
close.
on the Gargoyle, but it dies now, and now the Firelord is taking the full focus of the wave. Does it go down? I mean, it's clearing up everything before it does. Wow.
Oh my
He
god,
just
yeah,
holds.
I mean, that's a hold, yeah.
Or he leaks a Hermit, but that's pretty solid play there from Drachir. And if we have a quick look at Bonny's lane, the 100 send from Lucy, Bonny also holding. So we were giving Drachir a lot of praise, but Bonny with that 7 worker push during wave 3, also holding the 100 send on 5. So he's no slouch either.
Yeah, the biggest thing that's happening right now is that Drachir has no weak waves until wave 9. And that means that he can push like crazy and forces Sen on wave 8, where Bonny is weak, so there is a chance of an undercut here.
Yeah. And Aviator also weak on wave 8, I've got to say. He's playing Aqua, so all he needs is that little moly boy, and Aviator's leaking bad.
So let's see if Drachir goes for the aggression here. Looks like he wants to stay on 9 workers instead. And Lucy will soon catch them now, receiving the Sen on her weak wave.
But she's completely fine against that. It's only an income send, it's only a dino. She's holding that very, very easily.
But, oh, wait, Bonny, look at Bonny. Push 2 workers off of that snail.
Oh, he might be in trouble on wave 8.
Lucy going for the lizard though, so continuing the income, and so we see Lucy not having enough Methium to do anything on wave 8, but doesn't require much though to leak Bonny on wave 8.
But look at this though, Aviator does go for the rogue wave here, so he's doubling down on that Aqua. He's not shifting any gold at all, so there's no way for him to get the banana bunk down on wave 8. Drachir's mole is going to be really devastating for Aviator on 8, I'm pretty sure.
I want to point out something. The play from Aviator next wave is to go double veteran and switch those devil fishes on onto Seraphins.
Now let's see. Bonny, he only gets 1 lizard. He should be fine against that. It looks like he is totally fine. Do the income sends do anything against Drachir and Lucy? They do not. There's the mole. So he's ready to rumble.
Alright, let's see if Aviator spots the mole here. Those should be Seraphins, and those should be veterans.
Alright, he's got 205 gold. What do you think his best bet is? Just a double veteran and another Peewee or a boost, maybe?
He wants to drag a little bit more onto that side, because right now this Polywog is dragging everything out of the Aqua's side.
Yeah. Oh, he re-rolls. He's got a Lord of Death, but he can't afford it. I think Aviator's in trouble
veteran
here.
instead and not going for Seraphim, so this small will not die here.
Yeah, I think he's in a bit of trouble here. Fire Elemental's going down, it's taking too much focus, the Rogue Wave's carrying nothing there. So Fire Elemental already dead. Mole now attacking the veteran, while tanking it, by the way. At least the Rogue Wave takes the damage from the wave before the veteran. This is probably the best case.
The mole dies, so that's...
Yeah.
It's not perfect, could have been a bit better.
Could have been a lot worse, though. If that mole survives, this is a 75% leak instead of a 50% leak.
That is correct. Gonna point out on the net values though, and we can see that despite Aviator leaking here, the net values are still quite close on everybody. Aviator is behind, yes, but Bonny is ahead.
Bonny is doing pretty well, yeah. So he obviously picked that cash out, which means he started with 5 less income than everybody else. But if you look at the income totals, you can see that with 122, Bonny has more income than everybody else in the game.
And we see here Bonny and Aviator playing for the late game already, like investing into those king ups. We have lifesteal double, which I don't agree with the positioning right now, but let's see how this one goes.
I think it's fine. This is kind of the old school position.
Oh yeah, he has upper split,
double
so it's
on the left. Yeah.
And there is Pulverize and Hero. I do think that Bonny will
Oh,
want to go for
Pulverizer is
Pulverize.
so good on a lifesteal doppelganger. It's worth pointing out as well that that was a reroll for Bonny. Butcher was not in his initial roll, so kind of a lucky reroll for him to pick that one up in the Butcher, but very, very powerful. So
Yeah,
when
that
you have
changes
that
up
lifesteal
a lot.
doppel with Pulverizer, it's just unstoppable.
You know why this is a big deal? It's because this will be the last income sent from Bonny, and we will see a wave 13 or 14 right away. And with the Firelord on the board, I do expect a wave 14 long save now.
And there's a mole send coming out on 10 from Drachir. What he doesn't know is that Aviator's just dropped himself a Holy Avenger, which should, I don't know. Do you think Holy Avenger's enough for him to hold here? Because
It
all
will
of
not
Drachir's
be.
all of Aviator's units are bad except the Avenger.
Yeah, so the thing is that the Aviator will buy time for him to kill the Mole and the Hermit with those Aquas. He will not be able to kill the boss because the single target damage is not enough with only one Avenger, but however, he does get the bonus gold from the
The Mole and
sets.
the Hermit both dead already. They didn't last for very long whatsoever.
Yeah, so that's because with the upper split, the Avenger was on the board, so this was pretty good for him.
And like you say, he's not got enough damage to kill the boss, but he gets both of the sends down pretty quickly, and he's leaking the boss on around 40% HP. Meanwhile, Drachir and Lucy, they both leak. Lucy to no send. So you can definitely say that that's a one trade for Bonny and Aviator.
Yeah, that's a bit good, because now you see Bonny pushing aggressively, and that's one thing you can do in the mid game with Doppel, with lifesteal.
Yeah. And especially when you put Pulverizer on it, it just becomes literally unstoppable.
I mean, he needs to place it first, but I do think it's probably a no-brainer to do so.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any point for the players to hide their Legion spells this time around. There is no aggressive spell that they want to try and mind game, so you just pick your buff and you place it already.
Interesting from Lucy to up onto the hero instead of the Pulverizer on the gun. So
Yeah,
wants
that's
the tankiness instead of the stun opportunity. And hero also
Bonny
on the
went for
Phoenix. So
hero. I honestly think that's a misplay. I think the Pulverizer is just so good on the Doppelganger.
yeah, everybody with heroes. So I mean, especially Bonny having the white main. So going for the white main aura, the lifesteal, and the hero seems a little bit too much for the Doppel and reduces the scaling aspect of the attack speed that gives Pulverize.
But just the ability for the Doppel to like delete its target from the game with Pulverizer is so strong. Like you think about wave 13, wave 15, wave 18, even wave 20 as well. Like that Pulverizer, the mini stun on the Doppelganger, it just pretty much deletes its target from the game. Like whatever the Doppelganger is focusing no longer does any damage until it dies.
Let's see, everybody is saving with 12. Do we? I mean, those are turning into long saves in the mid game. It was to be expected with the rolls. Now, we talked about important for Drachir and Lucy to cover their weak waves. That's exactly what's happening. That Lucy is preparing for 14, while 13 should be covered by Drachir.
Yeah, so Drachir's going to get his Phoenix online for wave 13, should give him a comfortable hold there. And as you say, Lucy has a ton of boar value back there, a ton of veteran value, and of course the Vulcan Cannon, so she's very, very strong on 14. While Drachir should be able to hold this 13 send, which we do see coming from all four players actually. So is anyone looking particularly weak here? I don't think so. Aviator does need to sell though to get his Sovereign.
Yeah, and last wave we did see the boost coming up from Aviator, and that's because he was shifting. And so to get that Avenger, he needs to sell those too.
So that failed boost there from Aviator actually pretty costly.
And you probably boost those two to drag the wave down onto the Aquas. No, he doesn't.
Alright, well let's see how everybody does. I do expect Lucy to leak pretty badly, although she did drop a couple of Berserkers there at the start of this wave. but the rest
But
of
it's
her
not
units are
enough.
just really weak for 13. Drachir, however, did get the Phoenix as expected, and the Phoenix is just perfectly off tanking the split there, giving him a nice little hold here on 13. Meanwhile,
And
the Sovereign of Aviator, he did have to sell for it, but it looks pretty worth. He's going to leak, but only small. And Bonny with that lifesteal doppelganger, it looks like, I think he's going to end up leaking here. And this is 100% because he didn't pick Pulverizer.
exactly. That's the polarizer difference right here.
Yeah. Now, Drachir is not going to full cover here. The Phoenix doesn't have enough HP, so there will be damage on the King there. And, of course, damage on the King on the side of Bonny and Aviator, both of whom leaked.
And we discussed that normally on ranked ladder, Drachir and Lucy go for a lot of income ups, but this time they didn't, and they just played the same way with covering each other's weak waves, and was able to cover on one side and only leak on the other. And so right now, a little bit of an improvement from normally what we see from them on the ladder.
Yep. And if we look at the 4 players, Bonny is quite comfortably ahead, actually, just because his value is on par with Drachir and Lucy. But he has 40 more income than anyone else in the game. So he's getting like an extra worker worth of gold every single wave. He's really set himself up for victory in this one.
There is one problem, however, and this problem is named Wave 15 right now for both Bonny and Aviator. But they both did shift, and that's because Aviator wants to go for the Hades, I believe. And
Surprise Hades, pretty solid.
And that might just bait Descent on 15. It does come out, and Bonny and Aviator will follow as well, it looks like here.
That Hades has got his work cut out for him, though, because all of Aviator's other units are pretty weak here on 15, so the Hades has to pretty much one-shot the wave.
Yeah, but he's going for Hades, and is going to spam the rest into Pee-wees here. Yeah, Pee-wees. And the idea behind it is, yes, it's not really that effective as a frontline. However, it gives time for the Hades here to get another summon out. And that's a very crucial thing here for the Hades.
And meanwhile, Bonny is just adding a couple of fully boosted Orchids, another Badger for some Arcane HP. So he's got solid tank line. He's got a solid bit of magic damage. But the sends are pretty big all around.
Yeah, but there is no polarizer.
I think this is pretty close on both teams, honestly. This Phoenix aggro here for Drachir is very, very important, because if that thing stays alive and just dishes out the damage, it gives him a decent chance to hold, where otherwise he would not have a chance.
It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty
very,
good for him.
Very good for Drachir, yeah. Lucy's doing okay, but I don't think she's going to full hold. Phoenix does go down now from Drachir, but it nearly
look at
killed
the HP on the boss.
first. And this Hades, by the way, is doing exactly what it needed to for Aviator. And Bonny, he's just full holding. Drachir full holding, Lucy leaking small, Aviator leaking the Shaman on low HP, and Bonny
the Doppel will
fully
just laugh at
holding.
that Shaman.
Wow. Fair play, Bonny. The arcane armor, the magic damage from the Orchids, it was just enough for him to be able to hold here.
Yeah,
And
the crucial
meanwhile-
part was to kill the boss early for the lifesteal to kick in afterwards.
Yeah, and Drachir was strong enough to hold his own lane, but he's not covering anything in the mid. So they're losing a lot of hit points on the King, down to 53% now. So one more big leak at this stage of the game, and it's all over for Drachir and Lucy.
But now it's the late game, and we characterize I mean, you pointed out that Julian and Green didn't think that Wave 18 was too strong there. And if we look at the builds here, we have the boards on Lucy, and that is a real problem for Bonny and Aviator to get through there.
You say that, but look at this Shadow. Lucy's fully pushing, so she hasn't spent anything on value here this wave. She's putting everything into workers, and this screams to me they're going for an all-in play on 17.
Yeah, and I believe they read the play from Aviator and Bonny correctly here. Aviator not pushing a single worker does indicate that he might want to go for with 19 cent.
But no,
however,
no way.
he's so far under already.
There's no way they go 19. They have to match on 17 here. It's their only chance. I think Aviator and Bonny know that, because Aviator is already very low value. He knows that he's dead on 17.
And Lucy is just full pushing here. Lucy is just full pushing.
And the fact that Lucy leaked here gives the game away to some extent that she's suicide pushing. So if they weren't planning to send on 17, they definitely are now.
Yep. And the sends are coming here. Double 4i from Bonny going to... Oh no, the Hermit Edition. Oh yeah, it does push us to the Phoenix, yeah, so that's alright. He doesn't need another range send now.
That should push both 4-eyes to the left. But this is just going to come down to a race, I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly certain that both teams are going to receive lethal-sized leaks this wave. It's just a question of who can last the longest.
I mean, the damage is just not there for Drachir on this wave. He has a Star Color, but the magic damage from the Phoenix should not be enough here. And Lucy full pushed, so we do expect her to leak quite fast. It's all about the delay, and it might be on the side of Bonny here.
Bonny is receiving the biggest send, though, by quite some margin. He gets 200 Mythium more than anybody else, and
the pack is
Drachir's
sniped,
Phoenix
though.
is not tanking anything.
The pack was sniped very fast onto Bonny, and that's a Centaur onto Bonny, and with the lifesteal, it's not really the best
I really don't like the Centaur into a lifesteal build. But Bonny's still leaking very quickly, though. Aviator?
Aviator delays, but for sure there is longer, but no! It's
Aviator holds the longest! Wow.
the no push from Aviator after the 15 cent was crucial here, despite having the lowest value here. Just a summer build able to delay long enough.
Yeah, so as expected, it came down to a race, but in the end, Bonny and Aviator came out on top. They take this game 1-0 with a very close call there on wave number 17.
So how much of it is a mistake here to fully push from Lucy? Maybe delay the push, build a little for 16 to prevent the 17 cent?
I don't think it was a mistake. I think they're playing to their outs here. I think they know that Bonny's like the biggest player in the game. They know that Bonny's the carry player. So the only way for them to leak him there is for Lucy to be pushing pretty hard. And she was never going to hold longer than Drachir anyway, I don't think, after pushing to 32 on 16.
Yeah.
So like maybe she can add a red eyes for 17. But it doesn't make enough of a difference. I'm pretty certain she's still not going to hold longer than Drachir is. So I respect the play. And sure, it didn't work out this time, but that doesn't mean it's a bad play. I think they saw this as their avenue to victory. And, I mean, sure, it didn't work out, but it was very close. Like, this one came down to the wire.
Yeah, that is something we probably did not expect, that Bonny was in the carry role on this one. And that might be part due to the role here.
Yeah, he got a very good roll. Like the second that he re-rolled that Butcher on wave 8 or 9, whenever it was that he re-rolled, you could tell that he was in a very solid position to carry the game because he already had the income lead, and then he had a very, very strong roll to go with the income lead. And he was able to snowball that lead that he picked up in the early game and really take that one to the victory that he deserved. So well played to Bonny there.
Yep. So let's see, I mean, the mid game was pretty solid from Drachir and Lucy. They covered themselves pretty well, but it just turned out a little bit short.
Yeah. I mean, Lucy and Drachir, they both played very well. Of course, the game was super close. I do like Lucy's suicide push there towards the end of the game. I think it was a good call. Didn't work out, but yeah, the game was super, super close. So let's see. Game number 2, can Lucy and Drachir bring this series back to a tie? Do you have any predictions, Shadow?
I mean, I do expect, with what we've seen, I do expect Drachir and Lucy to be able to take that win.
Mm-hmm.
However, they need to be a little bit more careful in the early game concerning Bonny, it looks like.
Yeah, that's a fair point, I think. So
because
maybe they
we
were
spotted...
expecting Aviator to be the carry player, and Bonny kind of pulling that hidden carry roll out of the bag, where probably even us casters didn't expect to see it. Certainly caught Drachir and Lucy by surprise.
But you remember on wave 6 we discussed how Aviator and Bonny had a common weak wave on 8, and Lucy continuing to income send. I think that was part of the beginning of the trouble for them.
Yeah, true. Like Lucy sent, what was it, like a Fiend or something on wave 7, where she needed to be able to leak Bonny on wave 8, which was when Aviator was receiving his mole. So maybe if Lucy had just kept that extra 60 Mythium to be able to break Bonny as well on wave 8, it could have been a different story. But anyway, that's ifs, buts, and maybes are kind of beside the point at this stage, because we are into game number 2. And we do see exactly the same Legion choices as we had in game number 1. We have Cash Out on Bonny, and we have Triple Greed from the other players.
Bonny has the same opener as Drachir if he so decides so, but there is also the possibility to go for a Priestess here.
And he has the Priestess Mask as well, which is just such a strong opener. And the fact that he's Cash Out as well means that he will get 5 workers with Priestess if he wants to go that route.
Yeah, exactly. We do have here the Rose locked in, and that's going to be a Priestess from Bonny. We're going to see the Pack Rats here from Aviator, and you know that's big trouble because this is a top performing unit right now.
It's my favorite. It's Shakura for FC Lucy.
But now we have 2 Trirons here on wave 1, and how does the Pack Rat will fare against the Sakura when you're sending onto it? And that's when they send on wave 1. Everybody send, but how much this extra Mythium will affect the Sakura here?
I mean, Bonny's feeling very, very safe now. He's got his 5 worker Priestess opener thanks to Cash Out, and he's obviously receiving from a very slow opener, which is the Shakura from FC Lucy. So I think Bonny's feeling pretty pleased with himself going for the play that he did, and he's obviously very secure now. He's almost certainly not leaking any wave before 7 to a Mimic, something like this.
Drachir, you need another one here. This... Yeah, okay, that's good.
Oh, and the King upgrade resends as well, so Drachir can just pretty much full push now. I don't know, he doesn't need to add anything apart
you
from
just
one
need
gargoyle
a
on
gargoyle.
3.
You just need 1 gargoyle.
Yeah.
I think he knows, and he did push, I believe.
He has 90 gold though, and he's not pushing the worker button.
So his plan is to go for another rat?
Probably another rat and a gargoyle, yeah.
Yeah, another rat and a gargoyle would be pretty good with his gold right now.
And the waves are so fast that the rats, I think, is a good choice, right?
I mean, yeah, but he's not doing it. He's shifting the goal.
But what's he shifting for? Maybe a disciple?
Does he want Avenger on 5 or something? I'm really not sure what's the game plan here for Drachir.
I'm not sure about that one. And Aviator does get the DT send. He has his Fire Lord, so he's completely safe.
He's now pushing the worker because he received. So I believe that his plan, looking at his goal right now, was to get a disciple out on wave 4, and now just realized that he doesn't need it.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him just push the worker, honestly, on wave 2.
Yeah, it would have been a bit better. But now go for the gargoyle, the green devil, or maybe not. Going for a second flower, or not.
Yeah, I think Drachir has about as much idea what he's doing with his build as we do. So he's kind of changing his mind every couple of seconds, but he goes with the green devil in the end.
But right now the Sakura here, talking back onto it, it does receive only a 40 here on wave 4, meaning that it will get the stack, and with a Bashroom on the back here, soon to be a canopy. Wave 7 is a little bit less scary now.
Sure. A single canopy isn't going to do too well against 2 or 3 brutes, but I'm sure Lucy will be able to figure it out by the time she gets to wave 7.
I mean, she has the possibility to go for a Growl onto Millennium too, so that's another thing she can think about.
Meanwhile, Bonny did receive a 60 send on wave 4, didn't push a single worker, so he obviously has a plan. I didn't think his plan would be to add a Wanderer though. I thought his plan might involve a ship.
I really think this is 40 position. If you want to have a Wanderer with a Priestess, it's much better to have it on the split when you have multiple masks, so that you make the wave dance a little bit in the split.
Yeah. Well, you need the Wanderer to die fast as well, right? Like, the whole purpose of the Wanderer is to respawn. The longer it stays in this form, the more the value is being wasted.
Yeah, and Aviator does receive a 60 here, but does have the fire rod since wave 3, so I'm not sure about this send. Just wanting to scale, I believe.
Huh?
That's same for Bonny going for a Fiend against double flower.
This is just the longest wave in recorded history, which has got to be... I mean, I was going to say it's going to be a victory for Bonny, who has 7 workers, but Lucy has exactly the same. So the long waves are only bad for the 2 rat players, which is Aviator and Drachir.
And right now, I'm not really liking that both teams doesn't really aim to try and punish the other. Like,
Yeah, both teams are just trying to
Fiend,
snowball at this stage, so
yeah, I mean the
everybody's just
Fiend on
income sending.
5, the Fiend on 5 onto Drachir here. Want to point that out. It's like, yeah, you have a possibility to leak him if he's greedy. However, if you just skip wave 5 and go 6, you're kind of forcing this pack rat to not be treasure hunted. But now he just can't do it.
I think Lucy's probably going to start going for a little bit... okay. I was going to say Lucy's going to start going for a save, and she immediately sends the Brute. Just to prove me wrong.
Drachir's gonna follow.
So we have a little Brute send, but I think Bonny's going to be fine. The only way Bonny leaks here is if he thinks that he's stronger than he is and decides to go for a shift. But I think if Bonny builds, he's going to be just fine.
Aviator going for the hunt, gonna receive 2 brutes here also.
Yeah, but Brutes against Firelord, though, we saw them yesterday, and they're just not it, you know? They're not the send. A Mimic would have been maybe a chance, but 2 Brutes is just not doing anything against Aviator. And even with the treasure hunt, he's still above 800 value. Like, he's just not in danger here.
The one who's gonna be in danger might be Bonny. However, the split seems okay. However, the brute is a lot of damage onto the priestess, it looks like.
But is she surviving? She's not. The priestess is down.
But this is the main damage.
The Tantrum Mask is still on full HP. That's an easy hold for Bonny. Easy hold for Aviator as expected. And sure, Drachir and Lucy are holding as well, but they only got income sends. So again, this is a one trade here for Bonny and Aviator.
And that's the danger. I mean, it's very hard to play against those pack rats because it does generate more resources. This means you have more income if you're income sending. And it's very tricky.
Yeah, 100%.
Either you use that extra resource to get this extra gold in the early game to be almost unleakable, or you use it to put pressure on your opponent. And right now, what Aviator is doing is a bit of both here.
Yeah.
But right now, it's a perfectly even game in terms of workers, and in terms of income, it's quite similar as well.
It is. Lucy has the most value because obviously all the free value that the Sakura is giving there. 7 free stacks is 143 gold. But Sakura, I think, is going to die here. So no free stack on wave 8 for Lucy.
So missing 1 stack here is not the end of the world. However, this is very grim looking for Lucy because wave 10 should be another loss of stacks here if she's not careful.
I wonder... Okay, so she gets the canopy here. And she is getting an income resend from Aviator, which does take some of that pressure off of wave 10. But I totally agree with you. Lucy is looking super weak on wave 10.
However, we need to point out that even if she has the same worker count as Bonny, there is something additional going on for her, and that's the Clover Pixie.
Yeah, true. Only the one of them so far, but that is going to be +8 Mythium on every wave.
And that's while being ahead in workers.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sakura should be able to survive here.
Sakura? Don't do me like this, Sakura. Come on, you can make it.
Easy.
Oh, baby, when you move like this. Alright, so she does survive. That is another stack there for Lucy.
And look at this pro hold here.
Oh, pro hold.
And that's a wave 10. That's 13 workers on Lucy. Looks like she wants to accept the leak on this wave.
I think that's probably the correct play, because she would have had to be so high overvalue to have any chance of holding 10 that she might as well just push and accept that she's not getting the stack here.
So this means that there will be one more stack less onto the Sakura, but already 8 stack before 10 is not that bad, to be honest.
It's a pretty
You have the
big send
Avenger?
against Bonny, though. She's going to get another 60 Mythium. I wonder if she decides to brute it out or not. She does. I don't actually love the brute because it's going to give the Azaria a target. Oh no, the Azaria does go straight on the boss. Okay, that's actually very good for Lucy and bad for Bonny.
Very good for Lucy. This means that the Ogre will stay alive also. The Azaria not switching targets.
This is a pretty big leak on Bonny now, so a very nice send there from Lucy. 77% leak on Bonny.
But Aviator.
Aviator
doing
his
Aviator
boss.
thing.
And yeah, as expected, Lucy leaks her boss versus no send, but that was the risk that she was willing to take.
Aviator holding though, and he has the Pilgrim, he has the Pack Rats. However, now the Pack Rats in the mid game are a little bit less viable.
Yep. Now, do we see any of the players taking the new counter-attack spell? I would guess no.
I would guess no, but if there was a team who was behind, it would have been a nice spell for the extra resources. Also want to point out that it's a little bit better for Aviator that he only has one Pack Rat and not two, so that the value is not that much lost here from Aviator.
Yep. We've got Villain coming out from Drachir. We have Sorcerer on Bonny, who I assume will place it on the Azaria. But he's hiding it for now. I think it's just taxed allowance. No, okay, Aviator last second picks up the Villain, but Lucy does go for that taxed allowance.
That must be the Villain on the Serpent on Aviator. That must be it, unless he goes for the Villain Pack Rat, as we saw yesterday.
Aviator, by the way, in fact, both Bonny and Aviator, 1300 value here on wave 11. Now, obviously, Aviator is very, very strong here, but he would have leaked decently to like a couple of DTs.
We did have a tax allowance, but it was on Lucy.
Yep. And Aviator just barely holding the sliver of HP left on that Chieftain.
And he's going for the Phoenix here.
And it is going to be a
He needed to send, however. He needed to send.
Well, he thinks that he's baiting a send here on 12, which is why he sold a unit to make sure he gets his Phoenix there. But we can see there is no send coming, so I have to imagine it's going to be a 14 send coming out from Drachir and Lucy. Where Aviator looks very weak, and Bonny... I mean, Bonny has Haven, but against a decent-sized send from Lucy, I think he's just dead.
Everybody's expecting a send on 12. Look, they harden, the no trader hunts. But no, they want to punish the Sakura here. And going for 14 onto Lucy, but Drachir building for 14 with the Sovereign, possibly.
Well, Drachir had to harden here because he shifted gold, so he wants to make sure to get that Sovereign out on 13, which he will. It's a pretty nice play there from him to make the shift there. There is a send, though, from Bonny and Aviator. But Drachir, of course, with the shifted gold, he does have the Sovereign.
He's treasure hunting.
Oh, the treasure hunt is very greedy from Drachir. That's very, very greedy. I was just about to say I'm fairly certain that he holds, but he's just sent 150 of his swift armored units underground.
And he's dehardened.
I think this is a mistake. Well, obviously
I mean, he has
it's
Villain.
a mistake, but
He has Villain, so it's not that bad. Lucy is dragging the Ghost Knight on the side of the Sakura, though.
I think this is just going to be a really big leak on both of them.
Oh, never mind. It's a even split. Flying the change of yeah, I didn't see it correctly.
Okay, so the Millennium is at least able to clear the left side split, but Lucy's going to leak pretty much everything on the right.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So now on the Ghost Knight, I don't expect that to die. And Drachir's actually doing pretty well. He's only leaking the 4 eyes, but it would have been nice for him to cover here, right? Like, if he kept his rats above ground, he would have just held comfortably and probably covered in the mid as
Easy
well.
holding, last spell.
Oh,
No.
nearly got the spell. The spell would have killed the 4 eyes.
But they are going for the 14 send. The leak is not massive, as you pointed out.
And the send is huge now coming out from Lucy and Drachir. So we
And it
called
is
it earlier on. Aviator very weak on 14. Bonny has a couple of good units for 14, but he's just so far undervalued.
Does that change stuff though? The Ocean Templar there?
I mean, the Ocean Templar is obviously very good to make his Phoenix that much tankier, but I mean, he just doesn't have damage for this wave, right? Like, he's spent so much on buffing that Phoenix. It's taking the Chieftain Shield, it's taking Ocean Templar, it's his villain, but it's his only damage, and it's magic, and this is wave 14.
And the Centaur, I think I like it because it gets rid of all the other type of damage that he has. It does buff the Phoenix though if it's not tanky.
Yeah, I just never liked Centaur, and you can see it here, it's just dying immediately. 280 Mythium wasted,
Yeah, but
it's
now
already
he
gone.
just has magic damage because everything else is dead.
Huh?
However, the Mimic is on the Pilgrim here.
Bonny is leaking bad, 124%. Aviator is leaking 71%.
Yeah, full king though.
I think the Centaur might have been bad enough that they survive, but it's going to be close.
I mean, even if they survive, look at the workers from Drachir here. 20 workers.
They survive.
Okay.
Never in doubt. So, Twitch
Bonny
chat, you heard it here
impersonation.
first. Never send Centaur. Never send Centaur. All it does is lower the Phoenix's mana so that it can deal more damage.
Yeah, it was a Centaur difference here.
Yeah.
But you can bet you can bet that Bonny was just on the king, clicking it more and more to have this last spell going out. That's for sure, because you know that the more you click the king, the more damage it will deal.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. But what's it going to come down to now? Do we think it's just going to be 17 from both teams?
Lucy and Drachir will try to go 16, I believe. However, with those masks, maybe not. There is, I believe there's flowers. Yeah, there are flowers on Drachir, so they are in a position to skip 16.
Yeah.
And I mean,
They just have so much more workers as well available to them. So Drachir on 20, Lucy on 18. They have a lot more Mythium. But
Yeah,
I think they'll
yeah.
17 it though.
I think it's a mistake to go on 17 though, because look at the builds they have. They are not looking great on 17 themselves.
But just think about it, right? You send on 16, and by some miracle, Bonny and Aviator both hold, or one of them holds and the other one leaks small, and you've just lost a game where you're really far ahead.
I think in this situation that there is only 4% King HP left, you can take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, you only need like 2 creeps to reach the king, right? And it's just over.
Yeah, exactly. And so the fight, if you send on 16, then you just nullify every type of race that there is.
So, I mean, we can see they would have won as well because Aviator and Bonny both shifted gold here. So a 16 send would 100% have been game over.
Yeah, and I know that when you're ahead, you're often a little bit more hesitant to make a sand before your weak wave. However, it can be also when you can win the game, and just prevent a race situation on your weakest wave. Yes, you have more Mythium, but those little details can hurt you in the long run.
Now, there's double Ogre from Drachir. I'm not sure about that one.
The ogres? I mean,
yeah.
you look at what Aviator has. He has Swift Armor, so the waves deal with that. The only option that he has is to go for fortified tanks, and so you want to deal with that as fast as possible and let the wave kill the rest. That's the idea behind Drachir's Sen.
That makes sense. Now, Bonny has double Banana Haven, so he's got tanks for days. Of course, everybody is very heavily undervalued, though.
Yeah, and that's the issue, because with those havens, you can't buy a lot of time, and that's the danger here. But we do have a Harden's Golem on Drachir, so that's a little of extra value too. The attack speed slow from the King Claw also is non-negligible.
The Ghost Knight was kited in Lucy's lane, so her Doomsday is doing endless amounts of damage before it focuses the Ghost Knight, so that's nice to see. In
Because we
Drachir's
know that
lane,
everything...
I think the Sovereign dies before it pops off, so
Yeah,
he's
but
gonna
look, this is a league, this is a league, they are taking game 2.
Wow! Very, very well played there by Overpush and Underbuild. Drachir and Lucy tying the series 1-1, and we are going to see a game number 3 on our hands.
Yeah, game number 3 here, and those games are so close. Those are so small decision differences from games to games that makes those little differences.
If you look at that graph, right, both teams are just head-to-head all the way through until wave 14. So because Drachir and Lucy held their nerve, they thought, okay, we might leak 13, but it's not going to be too bad, so let's just accept the leak. And that play, that decision that they made, enabled them to destroy Bonny and Aviator on 14. Nearly kill them, left them with a sliver of King HP, probably would have killed them with a Send that wasn't a Centaur. And they just gained such a massive economic lead that the game was pretty much over at that point. Sure, there was a couple more waves to watch, but the game was won on 14. Like, that decision by Drachir and Lucy, the skip 13 was game winning, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like, Drachir could have held here if he didn't treasure hunt on 13 too. So, I mean, I understand. You don't expect the send onto the sub ring on 13. However, Lucy was pretty weak there to a Ghost Knight, and it came. But the leak was small, as you said, so...
The leak was small, they didn't lose very much King HP at all, and they were able to just... Look at the size of those leaks on Bonny and Aviator on 14, they're just massive. Bonny in particular was just taken out of the game with that send. A really nice play there from Drachir and Lucy. They have tied the series, which means we have got a game number 3. So let me check if the lobby is up and ready.
It is up, but Lucy is not ready.
Okie dokie. Oh,
Lucy is ready.
Alright, so after seeing the first 2 games, Shadow, do you have a favourite for game number 3?
Can I wait to see the rolls first?
Yeah, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. I think on strength of play, you know what? I'm actually giving the edge to Drachir and Lucy at the moment, because their read of the game in number 2 was just very, very solid, I think. Like, they knew which way the game was flowing, they took the correct course of action, and it gave them the win. So I think if they can keep that up in game 2, then all else being equal, we might see Drachir and Lucy going into the grand final.
There is Overwork and Giant Snails, but Bonny decides to stay with Cash Out, not going for the cartel here. So switching it up a little bit, and looking at the roles, we have Sakura on Lucy possibly, and maybe on Aviator as well. However, I see the rats, I see Aviator, and I know what he wants to pick here.
Oh, Lucy not going for the Sakura this time around. She's going for a Graal into Firelord start, it looks like.
But the Gatling gun from Drachir, that's the preferred opener from Drachir as well.
And
they
with
have
the Gargoyle as well. The Gargoyle is just the perfect unit to pair with the gun. It just makes it very, very safe on the crucial waves, like 3 and 7.
I will disagree with you on that point, because I think the rat is much better than the Gargoyle here.
Interesting. Care to elaborate?
Yeah, so the thing is that the gun, very safe on the first 2 waves, so you can do the treasure hunt on wave 2. And this is 75 gold that will allow you to hold any snails too. So you can push, and then on wave 4, you can decide to, again, shift, because this is a swift armor type that will deal with wave 4 as well. and this can allow you to get something very big on wave 5, but I do expect a Windhawk here on wave 4 and Treasure Hunt.
And yet again, we see the Gatling gun player not receiving a send on 1. Oh, Shakura, Aviator this time. So let's see if those hips are going to carry him to victory.
And I must say that I don't like the roll. I do like the fact that he has bunk with it. I think it's one of the best combination. However, the early game's gonna be a little bit hard here to get to that bunk.
Yeah, and if he doesn't do the shift for the bunk on wave 7, he's dead because none of his other units are good on 7.
Oh, but I want to point out something. Look at this. This is a Sky Queen from Bonny here. And he is the only player that is top performing unit is the Sky Queen.
Really? That's interesting to me. But now Bonny skipping the king up on 1 was forced into sending a snail on 2, and that just means no pressure from Drachir. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go 6 workers on wave 3, honestly. But he does not. He goes for a second gargoyle, okay.
Yeah,
They're playing a little bit scared. Nope.
I think it's a nice adaptation.
He's selling the gargoyle, he's pushing the 6th worker. I prefer that play from Drachir. I think the 6th worker is absolutely warranted.
That double Snell, though.
Not dead, like he might leak small, but it's totally worth it to have the extra worker.
Yeah, and Bonny's not sending the second one.
In which case he just holds.
Yeah.
And Lucy receiving the Snail King up there into her Firelord, so she can just push pretty hard.
It's a nice adaptation by Drachir to not send on wave 3 onto the Sakura here.
And Bonny will leak against the double Snail. Not a big leak, only 4 creeps. I wonder though, if Drachir had sent the Dragon Turtle, this may have been enough to kill the Sakura.
No chance.
No?
Going for the double DT here onto Aviator, but Aviator going for the Chloropixie?
Oh, the
Is
double
that
DT
enough?
is so good though. The Chloropixie will not even come close to killing the DT on the right hand side. So that's going to reach the
I think it would have
Sakura
been
as
much
well.
better to go for a Vard there. However, I can understand the reasoning that he wants the Mythium.
I think this is going to be a leak.
I do think it's going to be a leak because this was a 6 worker start from Aviator.
Yeah. So the Sakura kills the left-hand side turtle, but as expected, the right-hand side turtle is still above 50% HP. So Sakura two-shotting the chickens here does mean he's going to kill quite a few of them, but that's still a 58% leak there on Aviator. Nicely played by Drachir, denying that stack on Sakura.
Yeah, so it's 1 stack on wave 4. It can be problematic for that wave 7 because he needs to shift on 6. So if Drachir reads the play correctly, he sees a lot of magic damage. He has to expect a shift on 6 to get something for 7.
And he could send something like Imps on 6, which would just destroy Aviator. Or even just, 3 Dragon Turtles.
Yeah, so let's see if he spots that weakness. We do have Bonny with the Steeds, can be quite strong on 6 because of the attack speed of the Sky Queen and base damage. Important to point out as well that he has a Tempest with the Sky Queen. It is the best aura for the Sky Queen, I believe. It does make it so that the attack speed is that much more efficient. However, wave 5 looks like a bit of a problem here for
This
him.
looks like a bit of a leak for Bonny here on wave 5. Indeed, 64% there. I mean...
And that's killing the Sakura.
That is killing the Sakura, so another denied stack. That's huge. And something I want to point out, that without having that 4th stack, Sakura is no longer two-shotting the mini Scorpions. It takes 3 attacks, which basically means it has 50% less DPS on wave 5.
Exactly, yes.
So had Aviator not leaked wave 4, he probably would have been able to keep to fully cover Bonny's leak here on 5 as well. Here not going for the wave 6 send against Aviator though, but Aviator he's not feeling confident enough to shift. He's placed the Disciple here, very good unit on 6, but not a good unit on 7. And we can see he will not be able to get that banana bunk down on wave 7. He's in so much trouble there.
Yeah, that is problematic.
Yeah.
That is really problematic.
Things are not looking good for Bonny and Aviator here in game number 3. They're going to need to pull off some kind of miracle to bring this one back, I think.
I think Aviator just was a bit too greedy with the Sakura early game. Like, going 6 worker, yes, can be fine. However, if you're getting saved upon, it's not really that good.
Okay, so here's the send on 7. It is a pack leader coming out from Drachir.
I mean, I can understand why. You see nature defenses.
Yep.
The wave is gonna be well enough to kill that.
And Drachir's just placed a second Gatling gun here on wave 7. Okay.
I mean, it's more damage.
Yeah, it should enable him to hold wave 7, I guess, but it's not ideal for the rest of the game. But I just want to see the devastation in Aviator's lane, because he is leaking really hard against this 180 send from Drachir.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. I mean, the Sakurai split tanking here, which is a bit of a saving grace here, but yeah, it's just
not even
enabling him.
close to enough. He's a massive leak here for Aviator. I mean, look at the state of this. That is a 96% leak for Aviator. Bonny, he's doing okay. I think it's going to be a bit touch and go for his Sky Queen there. It is attacking at maximum attack speed. Look at that thing go. Spin to win, baby. So Bonny does hold, but he's not going to cover very much at all in the mid. In fact, we see it die pretty much instantaneously, and they're going to take a decent chunk of king damage now.
Yeah, and I believe it just comes out to the understanding of the unit. We discussed about how Drachir and Lucy played a lot of games here, and those games are in this patch, and this is with Sakura, so Sakura experience might not be on the side of Aviator for now.
Yeah, and let's look at Aviator's Sakura, because only 4 stacks out of a possible 7. That's a lot of missed opportunity there for Aviator.
Yeah, and now they are both behind in workers compared to Drachir and Lucy. They need to make something happen, but against the guns and the Phoenix here, again covering each other pretty well on the waves here. It's gonna be an issue.
They just continue to income send though. Like, Drachir just doesn't have any pressure on him whatsoever. Bonny sending another 4 snails here. And it might even cause a leak, but who cares?
I mean, it's still more gold towards Bonny and Aviator, so maybe it helps them to hold the next sand. It's 42% only though, so it might be suboptimal.
But Drachir has the worker advantage by 3. And I think he's totally fine with that, because sure, it's a leak here, but it took the pressure off wave 9, which is where he was really weak.
Yeah, and Bonny was very weak on wave 9 as well. He's minus 130 value here.
More to the point, that little leak from Drachir just gave them an extra, what, 20, 30 seconds worth of Mythium generation for the big send that's coming out on wave 9. So here's their counter attack. Bonny does get the second boar, so he's got good tank value, but his only damage unit is a Sky Queen, which is double penalised on wave 9. So it's pierced into a fortified wave, and it's ranged into the Carapace's 15% range reduction passive. So Bonny just... his damage is non-existent, basically, for wave 9.
He's healing the wave right now.
Yeah, he's healing the wave. Let's watch this Sky Queen just heal the Carapaces when it attacks. I mean, sure, the double boar is going to take a long time to die.
But on the side of Aviator, he does have the bunk. The steeds are sharing the aggro. It will enable Aviator to hold here. But Bonny is going to leak more than 50% here.
Bonny's leaking decently. He's not going to kill the mole. That's a 73% on Bonny. And yeah, like you say, Aviator holds his own lane, but Shakura is going to die again in the mid.
That's another stack. That is another stack here.
Another stack loss. So Aviator is just really struggling at this stage. He was kind of all in on that Sakura to be able to carry him through the game, but only 5 stacks out of a possible 9.
Yeah, okay, so now let's just think about what's the current state here, because now everybody's sent, on wave 9. Either was it for income or to break. But we have King Ups on the side of Bonny and Aviator, including A-Lings, so they have a chance to catch back up in HP. They have a strong 11 and 12 composition as of now. Aviator has a strength of 13 as well, just like the tank. So good coverage for the mid game as of now. But we can say the same with Drachir and Lucy.
Look at Bonny's roll though. He's already re-rolled. Can you see a massive gaping hole in Bonny's defenses?
Well, yeah, I mean, on paper, wave 13 is an issue, but with the Leviathan, it just makes so that Sky Queen is able to kill wave 13.
Nah, there's no chance. If Bonny gets a big send on 13, he's leaking the whole wave.
I mean, it gives a damage. It gives enough damage for it to be relevant on 13. That's what I want to say. I don't say it's going to be a hold. It just makes it the Sky Queen is useful on 13.
Fair enough. But I'm saying it here and now. This is a Pennywise promise. If Bonny gets a send on 13, he's leaking the entire wave. That's going to be 100%.
He's not leaking the entire wave. He's leaking.
It's going to be a home run. It's going to be 100% leak, Shadow. Come on.
It's not going to be 100. Not going to be 100.
Alright, so both of us, it seems like, putting our caster reputation on the line. I'm calling 100 plus. Shadow's calling less than 100. Whoever is incorrect will be forever branded as the biggest pleb of all time. Bonny and Aviator both taking the taxed allowance.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised if you did not go for a sorcerer with a star carder possibility, but I can understand why. But on the other side we have the Viat sorcerer and the Trinity sorcerer, so that's terrible here for Bonny and Aviator to see that Trinity sorcerer, because that makes it very good on 13.
Yeah.
And looks like the sends are going to be on 13 for both teams.
Oh.
There is the red eye going on for Bonny.
Yeah,
Still no Leviathans.
He's in so much trouble, dude. He's in so much trouble on 13.
I mean, the values are not there for anybody.
Pennywise promise, dude. Coming in hot.
I mean, it won't be because there is a send problem. It's because the values are just not there for anybody.
Aviator is on high value, right? So he's only 45 under at the moment. Drachir and Lucy are actually more undervalued.
Interesting work here. I think this will be Linus on the star carder.
Right, here comes the send. There's a pack leader from Drachir. That one's maybe a little bit questionable. Lucy has 420 Mythium. What does she want to send? 4 Eyes pack. Okay.
Income from Aviator.
He wants to try and hold. I mean, he sees that Lucy has the Phoenix, and he just thinks, okay, well, that's, you know, she's not leaking. I might as well just go for income and try to survive their send, which he knows is coming.
I think you go for
Kraken
the
from
Linus
Bonny,
here,
though.
yeah.
The Kraken coming out from Bonny is very good because we do have 40 gold invested into Orchid Shurikens. The Kraken's going to tank all of those.
King ups from Aviator trying to survive here. They have the king ups. We discussed about that.
Oh.
So let's see. It is all depending on Aviator here. Bonny is gonna clear one golem. Here we go. I win.
Well,
Clear one golem.
Lucy shifted actually 80 Mythium. Oh, one more down.
83%. 83%. There you go.
Oh, I'm
Sky
the
Queen
biggest
useful on
pleb
13.
of all time. Aviator 56%, Drachir 83%, kind of unlucky focus on a couple of those golems it looks like. Can Lucy full cover? It looks like she can. Very nice aggro in the mid there for Lucy.
Yeah.
Bonny and Aviator, meanwhile, they're taking heavy king damage, but they're not out yet.
They're not out yet. The one who was on value was Aviator. He is insanely high on value compared to the others.
Yeah.
I think this is very good for them going forward.
I do have to say, though, Lucy actually ran out of time with her send. So she had 20 Mythium in the bank, and she has 2 snails sat in the send area. So a little bit
But
unfortunate
that still
there.
doesn't go to 100%, Penny. That still doesn't go to 100%.
I think it's like another 200 or so if those snails go out. And look at this. So Drachir, he's gone for the suicide push. He's on 27 workers. He hasn't added a single unit for this wave. So they want to try and end the game on 15.
But
I really
Bonny
like
and
the play.
Aviator are going to send on 15 as well, I presume.
Yeah. Bonny probably wondering what these two snails are about here. But it's no gift. In fact, Drachir continues the suicide push, so he won't be building a single unit for 15. But now Aviator and Bonny know that it's coming, because with this
yes,
pro league
they
here,
have to know.
Yeah, they have to know. So I wonder if Aviator pushes as well.
No.
He does not.
Aviator has the competition to hold wave 15 despite the big send here. So he needs to go for income or try and break here. Just needs to send.
Oh, they're saving? What? Bonny and Aviator. Oh no. They've grossly overestimated their own strength on this wave.
I can understand why Aviator feels confident to hold here, but he needs the value and it's going down by a lot here due to the suicide push from Drachir.
But as well, I mean, surely when Drachir pro-leaked there on 14, you have to know the suicide play is coming. I just think this no-send here, I mean, it's big balls of steel from Bonny and Aviator, right?
It's only a shaman for now. It will be accompanied by a witch here.
Don't like the hermit though. I think that could have just been a couple of DTs better.
So is the Sky Queen broken? Is Sky Queen just a halo but better? Is Bonny going to prove us this? Or will they leak and just lose the game? But it looks like the Sky Queens are reaching the boss as of now, but there's no frontline remaining.
Oh, so that is a leak from Bonny, a half HP boss and a shaman, and a leak from Aviator, pretty healthy boss. This is going to be game here. I'm fairly confident that Drachir and Lucy takes this.
Yeah.
A very nice aggressive suicide push from Drachir, granting them the victory here, and we will see Team Overpush and Underbuild moving through to the grand finals. Very nicely played there, Drachir and Lucy.
Yeah, I mean, after the leak to no send from Drachir, knowing that he has gun, at least Bonny needs to go for income here and try and hold for Aviator here. I think with a couple more steeds he was able to hold here. The Sky Queen reached the boss, but there was no frontline remaining, but it still manages to kill half of the boss, and yeah.
You have to realize as well that Sky Queen damage is exponential, right? It does more and more damage the longer the wave goes and the higher its mana goes. So more steeds obviously help to accelerate that. It gets more mana quicker, and of course the steeds are arcane tanks in their own right. So I think you're right. I think if they maybe they don't even income king. Maybe they just go for the kill there. Like if they correctly read that Drachir has suicide pushed, because he's leaking the full wave to any send of Bonny's, right? Bonny can just go for like, you know, cannon spam or whatever he wants to do, and Drachir's leaking everything. And Aviator also can go for a full send against Lucy because either she leaks very small, or she, you know, holds but with only 1 or 2 units left alive, and Drachir's leak is going to be enough for lethal there.
Also, if you go for the income send on 15, it just opens up to the 17 send afterwards. Drachir being out of the game just allows them to focus on Lucy.
Yeah. Yeah, really solid play there from Drachir and Lucy. They read the game very well. And this is what we talked about before the game, right? Like, I just feel like they've got a very good control of the pulse of the game. Like, they understand what the win condition is, and they just seize it. Like, they spot their victory a mile away, and they were playing towards this outcome from, like, wave 11 or 12 already. They already knew what they wanted to do. They had it planned out. And they followed the plan, and it worked. So really solid play there from Drachir and Lucy. I really like to see it.
Yeah, and I mean, it turns out that preparing to cover for each weak wave of your ally just allows you to make those plays as well. So So very, very good. Let me check if we know the result of the other match. I believe we do. And yes, it is. It will be Vidderson and King Dan's facing towards Drachir and Lucy.
Very, very nice. Oh, so Abraciat were victorious against WWS8 LPPD, were they?